Let me share with you my charting routine. I know when I got started charting, it was a little confusing. There was a lot to remember to do, and it felt a little daunting. So let's just kind of go over how I chart my cycle on like a daily basis. So the first thing that I do is take my temperature. So I am currently using this thermometer from iProve. I got it from Amazon, I want to say a couple months ago. My first one broke after it was a cheap one as well from Amazon. I think it was like $3. It broke probably like 7 months in, and since then I've had this one. So I've had this one for probably over a year now. And overall, it's not bad. It does take the 2 decimal points that you need. So if you see it here, you'll have like the 2 extra decimal points. So it can get really good with accuracy. So yeah, I really can't complain about this one. So the first thing I do in the morning is obviously turn off my alarm. I'm currently having it set at like 6:20 as I'm trying to get back into waking up early now that it's getting out of winter. Pop this in my mouth. I do try to keep it on a specific side just for accuracy's sake. So yeah, I turn off my alarm. I actually just press this metal tip in between my lips for like, I don't know, 5, 10 seconds because I've noticed that the metal tip gets really cold, especially right now in the winter time. And if you put that immediately in your mouth, that's going to drop down your temperature from like the area around it. So I just kind of like press this in between my lips for like 5, 10 seconds and then actually like take my temperature. Now, what's nice about this one specifically is that it does take, I think it was like 60 seconds for it to read. And usually you do want something a little bit more than 30 seconds. You don't want a quick read just because you do want it to be accurate once again. So for those 60 seconds, I just kind of hold it in my mouth. I try not to fall back asleep. Sometimes it happens. Luckily, it does beep, so it'll just kind of like wake me back up a little bit. And I just kind of put it right back down in my nightstand until I'm a little bit more further awake. Something else I do want to mention about this thermometer specifically, I do like it because it is pretty inexpensive, but that this one doesn't have a backlight. Now, the one I had before, it did have a backlight, but I would notice when I take my temperature at like 6:30 or something in the morning where it's still dark, it would blind me, and I didn't like that. So I switched over to one that didn't have a backlight. But now I also cannot see the reading. So I just put it down on my nightstand and wait until I either if I get out of bed or I'll come back around and actually write it down on the app. So the current app that I am using to kind of chart everything down is Read Your Body. I like it. I like the interface of it. I like how you can kind of keep track of different symptoms that you want to keep track of. It's very customizable, which is why I like it the most. So for instance, I'm currently keeping track of things like libido, breast tenderness, cramps, if I'm having a headache, if I'm more anxious, if I'm trying to think what else I'm keeping track of right now. If I'm traveling a lot or if I'm stressed. I know those two really can mess with my hormones. And then next is throughout the day, I'll check my cervical fluid. So it is every time I go to the bathroom. It's now, I've been charting my cycle for, I want to say like 3 or 4 years now. So it is really second nature to go every time I go to the bathroom just to check what there is and then kind of keep track of it. That's why I do enjoy the app because it's like right there on my phone whenever I do take my phone into the bathroom, or just when I get out of the bathroom, I have it handy so I can put it in there. And then the extra stuff that I do put it on like a paper chart. I say a paper chart because it's actually just on my tablet, but it does kind of break everything down and it's a little bit easier to see from like a bird's eye view, everything that's going on all in one place. Because the app does have like the chart, the full chart that you can see, but because it's a whole month usually, it's kind of hard to like toggle around. So I like the paper chart just to be able to see everything and see kind of different patterns and if I ovulated or not, what my luteal phase was, kind of like keep it all into perspective. Now, I've been using this routine specifically for about 4 or 5 months now, and I do really like it. One, because I get to use kind of two different methods. So I use like the app for just accessibility, being able to just roll out of bed, put the temperature in, and not have to get the tablet, get the little pen, and just kind of write it all in. It's a little bit more easier. And then I also like the visibility of the paper chart and being able to see different patterns that come up. Like for instance, from my last cycle, I noticed that there was a lot more breast tenderness than there have been in the past cycles. It was weird though, because it was like right around ovulation, which it can happen, but it was just a little bit odd for me. And then it happened, it kind of like went away for a little bit and then kind of came back up right at the end of my luteal phase. And I was able to kind of track that on the paper chart a little bit easier and just kind of being able to put like level 2 pain or level 3 pain. So it's going to be something I'm going to be kind of working more on is getting rid of that breast tenderness because I know I do tend to go more towards estrogen dominance because I'm more of like a workaholic, stress kind of individual. So I know that is my tendency. So I'm trying this cycle to not stress as much, try to avoid any anxious situations, just to avoid any excess estrogen. Something else that I noticed from my previous cycle is that my follicular phase was decently long. It was, I want to say it was like 17 or 18 days before I was able to actually ovulate. Now for this cycle, I'm trying some castor oil packs just to see, get more blood flow to the pelvic area, just to see if I can help stimulate ovulation just a little bit earlier, just so can I shorten that follicular phase. So yeah, basically I'm using these two methods, the paper and the app charting, to kind of form a game plan to what I could be working on for this cycle and vice versa. As someone that has struggled with hormonal imbalances for a long time, I do really enjoy being able to be like, okay, this happened this cycle. Now for this cycle, what can I be working on to address that so it doesn't kind of further spiral? Now, I know that it can also seem like a lot, like there is a lot going on, especially when you are getting into cycle charting. But this is after years of experience, years of kind of knowing what works for my body, what are things that really mess with my hormones, and being able to kind of keep track of it that way. So it is a slow progress, but honestly, cycle charting is a wealth of information. It gives you a really good window into your overall health. And it's honestly amazing how much information we can get from just charting our cycle. So if you're new to charting your cycle, definitely start looking into that because it is honestly amazing. Now, if you're brand new to balancing your hormones or just like healing your cycle or cycle health in general, I do have a starter kit that kind of gives you a good breakdown into what things you can be start looking at. I also have a couple of classes that you can look into, but overall, I would highly recommend you chart your cycle or at least start wanting to learn into charting your cycle because it is honestly something I wish I would have learned a lot earlier on. All right, that's all for me today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll be seeing you next time.